Hello, I'm Nancy Sutherland. I've held back on a few words that I have desired to express. Now, I sense that it is the appropriate timing. I'm known for saying like goes a long way. As I deal with many individuals, I do a lot for people because I just plain like them. Please know also that I work very hard to like people. In fact, I'm highly intentional, if not fiercely intentional, to like people. This at times is difficult because people are not likable at times. The relationship should be first in one's mindset. A person is not a consumer item to go buy another if not liked. The selling engagement is the epitome of this discussion. Many buyers are purchasing products because they overall like the individual. It typically takes multiple exposures of an individual before you say you like the person. Thus, the selling engagement is a relationship that takes some time, meaning the relationship must be given time to grow to a selling building partnership. This segues into another opportunity for us to enhance and build our selling relationship as we discuss objections in the selling engagement. I regularly use the business dictionary to grow my business content. This definition is that an objection is a formal protest of something that has been said. In fact, an objection is and can be somewhat provocative, if not completely this at times. As you have labored intensely to present a product and given your due diligence and due care, meaning your best, to receive the response that I'm not buying your product can evoke some pretty intense emotions. Thus, objections can have a way or tendency of causing us to not like because of our just plain humanity. Our humanity could cause us to think, feel in these fashions. For example, we could feel that objections halt our discussion in the selling engagement. Or, objections halt us from making the sale as I discussed above. Objections can make us think that they just use our time and that we need to get to the next sales call, meaning if only that potential buyer would see this my way, so to speak, there'd be no issue. Do you understand what I'm saying? I could provide more examples, yet no selling excellence demands that we mitigate these thoughts of humanity so that they do not cause us to act with value-decreasing behaviors. Selling excellence only results with the relationship being centric, not the product, as the relationship must be the centric point of which all selling engagement behaviors come forth to ensure or bring about the life support of the business selling the product. Again, I say that the goal for the selling engagement is to build relationships and sell value. We are to take these objections and work to sell value. This is what keeps the customer in the CRM system. Thus, if we have the understanding going into the selling engagement that objections for the most part are the norm, we have a healthier attitude in how to move both the potential buyer and the salesperson forward with value-increasing behaviors. We must sales coach that objections are as normal as rain falling from the sky. Accept them. In acceptance lieth peace, meaning healthier emotions, allowing you to springboard into work productivity in the sales call and afterward as you move to the next sales call. The goal is to build relationship and sell value. I have emphasized again and again the relationship. As we sit across the table, pause the lecture and meditate upon these questions, identifying your emotional response. How do you feel when someone interrupts you? How do you feel when someone causes you to start talking about a different topic before you're ready? How do you feel when someone tells you no? How do you feel when you're not allowed to talk, as the other person continually speaks and there is no typical flow of conversation, with you talking and the other person talking, flowing into more organic flow of conversation. How do you feel when someone tells you to shut up? How do you feel when you're told what you're saying is not true? How do you feel when someone says that you said this and you did not say that? How do you feel when someone says you are worthless? Or, can't you do something other than sales? How do you feel? Do you feel angry? Do you feel like you want to quit? Do you desire to not call on this prospect anymore? Do any of these questions, or ones that you've suffered yourself, make you like at that moment? I'm sure not. These scenarios happen in selling engagements. However, know this happens in all our humanly relationships. Know that people are people are people are people. Do you understand? Objections for our sales coaching discussion are basically when the prospect does these kinds of things to a salesperson. Thus, we need to discuss how to effectively handle objections so that both the buyer and seller are pleased. Know that you cannot prevent, for the most part, what the potential client says to you, but you can be in control of your response. If not initially, learn to be in control of your response and navigate the selling engagement for the building of the relationship. You must take the approach in the selling engagement to accept these behaviors from the buyer and work to mitigate the feeling of anger if this is the emotion that the objection evokes, or another emotion that could result in value decreasing responses from you to the potential buyer. The anger response, for instance, will not typically move you forward in building the relationship or in selling value. In selling engagements, you have conversations with all behavioral styles and buyer styles. This in and of itself is complex and will at times evoke the emotion of anger, as people can be provoking and are provoking. Self-mastery, self-control, both verbally and in body language, when being halted in your conversation for any reason, should be your standard operating mode, thereby yielding value-increasing behaviors done or said by you to build the relationship, to bring about the sale of your product, ultimately by your selling of value, and more importantly, the selling of your value. My sales coaching in prior lectures has emphasized that these responses of value-increasing behaviors come over time. There is human transformational growth with fierce intentionality to act with value-increasing behaviors to increase the relationship with your buyer versus value-detracting behaviors that work to destroy the relationship. These objections can be true, needful questions of legitimate product inquiry that need to be answered, or awkward inquiries that are not relevant, or what appears to be abrupt and rude behaviors from the potential buyer, or outlandish comments to you regarding you or your product, or any other example. Know that there is truly nothing new under the sun, meaning anything is possible as you deal with humanity. Thus, I emphasize again that people are people are people, intentionally coaching you to remember the relationship. See objections as your friend and as the method of discovery of your prospect needed to bring about the building of the relationship, as I relate with this example. Policemen are our friends. We like them. They protect us and enter our house for us if a burglar is still in there. They save lives because they are trained to respond quickly and effectively in times of emergency. We have a positive attitude toward them. Our attitude changes, however, If we are driving down the freeway at 85 miles per hour in a 55 miles per hour zone and they pull us over, we wish they weren't there. We resent them. In the same way, objections are our friends. They help us know what's on the prospect's mind. They can come at the wrong time, though, right while we're covering an important point. Even so, we should have a positive attitude toward them. In acceptance, we should work to live in peace, meaning that we are working to build the relationship. I will share a couple of objections that I learned to handle with great ease as time passed, thereby increasing relationship and selling value. I have discussed Dr. Rybold in a prior lecture. I will discuss him again. If I'm honest with myself, it's because he tried me so much that I can use him as an example in sales coaching. As I stated, objections are our friends. I will use him in my lecture because the extremely warm relationship that came over time, resulting in much reciprocity. We were going through a rainy season. My district manager, Mr. Cruz, chose a gorgeous London fog raincoat as he did not like the appearance of my clothes with raindrops. I learned to accept his managerial direction and grew exponentially under his sales coaching and life coaching. Even though we were in a rainy season, Dr. Rybold evidently did not like the appearance of the London fog. I suppose that I should have taken the raincoat off in the waiting room, yet I kept it on because of the chill. When he made objection to the raincoat, my face felt sting. I had no trouble accommodating his wishes, but felt the emotion of embarrassment. My point with these words is that this was a real objection and a real relationship. I acted with value-increasing behaviors, and through force of will thanked him. As I stated in the lecture making the sales call, the call to excellence, I emphasized the impression that you make behaviorally and in appearance. Dr. Rybold, for his own reasons, did not like my appearance with the London fog. I could have responded with many value-decreasing behaviors, but I did not. How would you respond? If I had insisted on the raincoat, this, I'm sure, would have hurt our relationship. I bent to his desires. I really feel that we can bend to others' desires. I promise you that we will not break if we bend to accommodate. This, in selling content words, is adaptive selling. In plain vernacular, I just did as he asked because it was the right behavior to build the relationship and sell value. Please know that I work hard to build all my relationships. This can be done. Objections can present themselves as well as issues with the product. I experienced this as well. For instance, I had product responsibility for Cefitan, an IV antibiotic for intra-abdominal and gynecological surgical prophylaxis given preoperatively to prevent postoperative infections from occurring and for therapeutic treatment for existing intra-abdominal and gynecological infections such as pelvic inflammatory disease. The drug had an NMTT side chain, which could potentiate patient bleeding in therapeutic use. I learned to handle this objection to usage from physicians as monitoring of the patient could be done. I really became adept at overcoming this selling barrier of the buyer physician. I would ask them to gain confidence with prophylaxis use and cover patients postoperatively with extended therapy that spiked a fever or became hot. This action worked, ensuring the doctor experienced value with a modest therapeutic use. I was also able to strengthen the presentation with clinical data supporting the safety profile and the sometimes needed vitamin K to act as a coagulant of the blood, mitigating any patient bleeding at that point. Our competitor company told physicians the lack of safety profile with Cefitan, yet I was able to mitigate the fear in my physician's mind. I emphasized last week the strengthening of the class of medicines with clinical research. I did just that. We in time replaced many hospital formularies with a cost-effective choice due to every 12-hour dosing regimens versus every 4 to 6 hours of our competitor. Lastly, know that the selling engagement is you asking the buyer for an action of change. Change improvements, change initiatives occur when the relationship is built, honored, and respected. In fact, business sustainability and personal sustainability depend on the relationship. Succinctly, accept objections as your friend, presenting themselves as a tool of discovery. Work toward moving both you, the seller, and the buyer of your product and of you forward with relationship intentionality, thereby overcoming objections. I am Nancy Sutherland. I am honored to deliver this business content.